Hello, friends, and welcome to our in-depth study through the book of Ezra. Today we're examining chapter 2, which provides a detailed list of the exiles returning to Jerusalem. In this chapter, we shift from the grand decree of Cyrus to the practical reality of who actually responds and makes the journey back. It's essentially a census or register of the returnees, totaling about 42,000 people, plus servants and animals. They're organized by family lines, towns, and special roles like priests and Levites. This list might seem dry at first glance, like reading a phone book, but it underscores the identity and continuity of God's people after exile. It shows that restoration isn't abstract. It's about real families and communities stepping out in faith to rebuild. The big idea for this lesson is God gathers his remnant homeward. This big idea highlights how God selectively calls and assembles a group of faithful ones from the scattered exiles to return and restart life in the Promised Land. In the broader book of Ezra, this fits as the groundwork for the physical and spiritual rebuilding to come. The book moves from this initial return to temple construction, opposition, and later reforms, all emphasizing that God's work involves preserving and mobilizing a dedicated remnant amid larger apathy or opposition. This chapter bridges the decree in chapter 1 with the worship renewal in chapter 3, showing the human element in divine plans. To support this, we'll explore three main events from the text. First, the listing of leaders and the total assembly. Second, the breakdown of family groups and town residents. And third, the identification of priests, Levites, and those with questioned lineage. Let's begin with the first event, the listing of leaders and the total assembly. We'll read the relevant verses from Ezra chapter 2, verses 1 through 2, and then verse 64 through 70 for the totals, in the New International Version. Now these are the people of the province who came up from the captivity of the exiles, whom Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon had taken captive to Babylon. They returned to Jerusalem and Judah, each to their own town, in company with Zerubbabel, Joshua, Nehemiah, Sariah, Reliah, Mordecai, Bilshan, Mispar, Bigvai, Rehum, and Baanah. The list of the men of the people of Israel, and it continues with the list. The whole company numbered 42,360, besides their 7,337 male and female slaves, and they also had 200 male and female singers. They had 736 horses, 245 mules, 435 camels, and 6,720 donkeys. When they arrived at the house of the Lord in Jerusalem, some of the heads of the families gave freewill offerings toward the rebuilding of the house of God on its site. According to their ability, they gave to the treasury for this work 61,000 derricks of gold, 5,000 minas of silver, and 100 priestly garments. The priests, the Levites, the gatekeepers, the musicians, and the temple servants, along with some of the people, settled in their own towns, and the rest of the Israelites settled in their towns. Now let's observe what's here. The chapter opens by naming key leaders like Zerubbabel, a descendant of David who becomes governor, and Joshua the high priest. Then it tallies the entire group at 42,360, plus servants, singers, and livestock. This isn't everyone who was exiled, many stayed in Persia, but a significant remnant. The daric was a Persian gold coin named after King Darius, and the mina was a unit of weight for silver, about 1.25 pounds each. These offerings show their commitment right from the start. Interpreting this, the list serves multiple purposes. Historically, it authenticates the return as a real event, tying back to the exile under Nebuchadnezzar. Theologically, it shows God's faithfulness in preserving a seed of Israel, as promised in prophecies like Jeremiah 31, where God vows to bring back a remnant. Zerubbabel and Joshua represent civil and religious leadership, mirroring the dual roles needed for national renewal. The total number, while not huge compared to pre-exile populations, emphasizes quality over quantity, a committed group ready to rebuild. This event also hints at generosity, as they pool resources for the temple even before arriving fully. Tying back to the big idea, God gathers his remnant homeward by assembling this group under capable leaders, ensuring a structured return. For personal application, imagine a sports team rebuilding after a losing season. They start with a core group of dedicated players who believe in the vision. Similarly, in your life, God might be gathering a remnant of supportive people or inner strengths to help you through transitions. This challenges how we think about community. Instead of going it alone, recognize how God brings others alongside. In the empty places in your life, like after a job loss or move, look for the people He's assembling to support your own return to stability. Let's turn now to the second event, the breakdown of family groups and town residents. Here are the key verses from Ezra chapter 2, verses 3 through 35, though I'll quote a sample for clarity. The descendants of Parash 2, 172, of Shephatiah 372, of Era 775, of Pahath Moab, through the line of Jeshua and Joab, 2,812, and it continues through various families. The men of Bethlehem and Netophah 188, of Anathoth 128, of Beth Asmaveth 42, of Kiriath Jearim, Kephirah and Beeroth 743, and more towns listed up to verse 35. Observing the text, this section is a meticulous count of descendants from specific ancestors, like Parosh or Pahath Moab, followed by people identified by their ancestral towns, such as Bethlehem or Anathoth. Numbers range from small groups like 42 to larger ones over 2,000. It's organized systematically, perhaps from official records, to verify heritage and land claims. To explain and interpret, genealogy was crucial in ancient Israel for inheritance, tribal identity, and proving belonging. After 70 years in exile, intermarriage and cultural mixing could blur lines, so this list reaffirms who's part of the covenant community. Towns like Bethlehem evoke history, it's David's birthplace, and Anathoth was Jeremiah's hometown, linking back to prophetic promises. This isn't just bureaucracy, it's about reclaiming roots. In Persian administrative terms, such registers helped with taxation and organization, but biblically, it shows God honoring family lines as per His covenants with Abraham and David. Not all exiles returned, many had assimilated, but this remnant chooses identity over comfort. Connecting this to the big idea, God gathers His remnant homeward through these family and town groups, preserving diversity within unity for the rebuilding task. Think of it like a forest after a wildfire. Scattered seeds from various trees regroup and sprout together, each contributing to regrowth. For application, this speaks to our own heritage, spiritual or relational. Maybe you've drifted from family traditions or faith roots. God can stir a return, gathering fragmented parts of your story. This text challenges what we believe about identity. Is it self-made or tied to God's larger narrative? In the empty places in your life, such as feeling disconnected, seek out those family lines of mentors or communities He's providing. Let's examine the third event, the identification of priests, Levites, and those with questioned lineage. We'll read from Ezra chapter 2, verses 36 through 63. The priests, the descendants of Jediah through the family of Jeshua, 973, of Immer 1052, of Pasher 1247, of Harim 1017. The Levites, the descendants of Jeshua and Kadmiel, of the line of Hodaviah, 74. The musicians, the descendants of Asaph, 128. The gatekeepers of the temple, the descendants of Shallum, Ater, Talmon, Akub, Hatita, and Shobai, 139. The temple servants, the descendants of Ziha, Hasufa, Tabaoth, and a long list follows. These searched for their family records, but they could not find them, and so were excluded from the priesthood as unclean. The governor ordered them not to eat any of the most sacred food until there was a priest ministering with the Urim and Thummim. Observing closely, this part focuses on religious personnel, priests from 4 main families totaling over 4,000, a small number of Levites at 74, musicians, gatekeepers, and temple servants, called Nethinim, a group often including foreigners dedicated to temple service. Then, some claimants couldn't prove descent and were barred from priestly duties until verified by Urim and Thummim. sacred lots used for divine decisions, like casting dice for guidance. Interpreting this, the emphasis on purity reflects the importance of the temple's role in Israelite life. The temple was the center of worship, sacrifices, and God's presence, so only legitimate priests could serve to avoid repeating pre-exile sins. The low Levite number, compared to priests, might indicate reluctance, as their roles were supportive and less prestigious. Those with uncertain genealogy highlight integrity, better to exclude temporarily than risk impurity. The Urim and Thummim, mentioned in Exodus, were part of the high priest's breastplate for seeking God's will. This event foreshadows themes in later chapters, like intermarriage issues, stressing holiness in restoration. This ties to the big idea. God gathers his remnant homeward, including specialized roles, while ensuring purity through verification. For personal application, consider a construction team building a stadium. They need skilled workers in specific positions, and credentials matter for safety. Likewise, in your spiritual life, God gathers us for roles, but calls for authenticity. This challenges how we behave. Are we honest about our lineage, our faith claims, or do we fake it? In the empty places in your life, like doubts about belonging, trust God to affirm your place through his guidance, much like the Urim and Thummim. In conclusion, let's restate the big idea. God gathers his remnant homeward. We've covered the three main events: the listing of leaders and the total assembly, the breakdown of family groups and town residents, and the identification of priests, Levites, and those with questioned lineage. These illustrate how God meticulously assembles people for his purposes. Reiterating personal application, this text challenges how we think, believe, and behave. It reshapes thinking by showing restoration as communal, not individualistic. It bolsters belief in God's preservation of identity amid change. And it urges behavioral response, stepping into the return he's calling you to with integrity. In the empty places in your life, whether relational gaps or purpose voids, allow God to gather resources and people for renewal. May he plant deeply in your barren places, yielding abundance you can't yet imagine. Now, take a look at the show notes for questions to reflect on. You can use them in your small group, or just take a few moments to reflect on your own. If you like this study, please like and subscribe for more just like it. Until next time, grace and peace.